In the 1940s, American engineers built steam locomotives so absurdly powerful that they could drag 6,000 tons of freight over mountain ranges at 60 miles per hour, machines so massive they weighed more than a fully loaded Boeing 747. Some could hit speeds over 100 miles per hour while hauling 15 passenger cars. These iron monsters were so far beyond what the railroads actually needed that diesel engines spent 20 years just trying to match them. Here are 10 that terrified the future. Number 10. The Norfolk and Western Class Y6B. We start with what many railroad historians consider the most refined compound mallet locomotive ever built, the Norfolk and Western Y6B. The Y6B was a 2882 articulated locomotive built by Norfolk and Western's own Roanoke shops in Virginia between 1948 and 1952, with 30 examples constructed. These were the last compound mallet locomotives to operate on any major railroad in the United States, and they were absolute monsters. In their standard compound mode, the Y6B locomotives generated a tractive effort of 166,000 pounds. But here is where it gets truly remarkable. In 1952, Y6B number 2197 was equipped with a booster valve that allowed superheated high-pressure steam to be fed directly into the low-pressure cylinders, boosting the tractive effort to an astonishing 170,000 pounds. 13 tons of ballast had to be added to the front chassis just to prevent the wheels from slipping under all that power. Every other Y6B in the fleet was subsequently rebuilt with the same upgrades. Norfolk and Western was the last major American railroad to resist the transition from steam to diesel. In 1952, the railroad conducted a head-to-head test of its Y6B and Class A locomotives against a 4-unit EMD F7 diesel set. The results were essentially a tie. The steam locomotives matched the diesels on fuel costs and performance. That a steam locomotive designed in the 1940s could go toe-to-toe with modern diesels tells you everything about how far ahead of their time these machines were. The Y6B delivered 5,500 horsepower and was the workhorse of N&W's coal operations, hauling massive trains through the Appalachian Mountains. When N&W finally ended mainline steam operations in 1959, 50 Y6 class locomotives were still running out their serviceable miles. Tragically, not a single Y6B survives today. The last two were scrapped in 1976, a decision that still haunts railroad preservationists. Number 9. The Southern Pacific Cab Forward. Southern Pacific's cab-forward locomotives were so ahead of their time that they solved a problem no one else had even tried to address. And they did it by literally building the locomotive backwards. The concept originated from a deadly practical need. Southern Pacific's main line through the Sierra Nevada mountains included dozens of tunnels and snow sheds. With conventional locomotives, the crew sat behind the boiler, which meant they were engulfed in suffocating smoke and toxic fumes every time the train entered a tunnel. Crews were being overcome by fumes, and visibility was near zero. Southern Pacific's solution was radical. Turn the entire locomotive around so the cab faced forward and the smokestack pointed backward. Because SP's locomotives burned oil rather than coal, the fuel could be piped from the tender to the firebox through a flexible connection, making the reversed arrangement practical. The first cab-forward 2882 locomotives appeared in 1909, and Southern Pacific continued ordering cab-forward designs for the next 35 years, eventually building a fleet of 256 locomotives across numerous classes. The later versions were massive 4882 articulated machines that could haul enormous trains through the Sierra Nevada with the crew enjoying clean air and clear forward visibility. No other railroad in the world adopted the cab-forward concept on this scale. Southern Pacific ran these backwards giants until the end of steam, and they remain one of the most visually distinctive and operationally innovative locomotive designs in American railroad history. Number 8. The Union Pacific Challenger. Before the Big Boy came the locomotive that made the Big Boy possible, the Union Pacific Challenger. Introduced in 1936, the Challenger was a 4664 articulated locomotive designed to haul heavy freight over Union Pacific's main line across the Wasatch Range. The design was a major step forward in articulated locomotive engineering because, unlike earlier mallet compounds, the Challenger used simple expansion, high-pressure steam in all 4 cylinders, which allowed it to operate at much higher speeds than traditional articulated locomotives. Union Pacific was so pleased with the Challenger concept that it eventually built a fleet of 105 of these locomotives, making it one of the largest classes of articulated steam locomotives ever operated by a single railroad. Other railroads recognized the brilliance of the design and ordered their own Challenger-type locomotives, making the 4664 one of the most widely used articulated wheel arrangements in American railroading. The Challenger was specifically designed to do something that previous articulated locomotives could not: run at sustained high speeds with heavy tonnage. Earlier articulated locomotives were typically slow-speed drag freight haulers, limited to 25 miles per hour or less. The Challenger could move heavy trains at mainline speeds, fundamentally changing how railroads thought about using articulated locomotives. But for Union Pacific's toughest mountain grades, the Challenger was almost but not quite enough. It still could not handle the 1.14% grade through the Wasatch Mountains without helper engines. That shortcoming led directly to the development of the locomotive that takes the number 5 spot on our list. But first, we have several more giants to meet. Number 7. The Pennsylvania Railroad T1 Duplex. The Pennsylvania Railroad T1 was perhaps the most controversial and audacious steam locomotive ever built in America. A streamlined speed demon that may have broken the world steam speed record, but was too wild for its own good. The T1 was a 4444 duplex drive locomotive, meaning it had 2 separate sets of driving wheels, each powered by its own pair of cylinders, all mounted on a single rigid frame. This was the Pennsylvania Railroad's answer to the articulated locomotive: more power without the complexity of an articulated joint. The prototypes, numbers 6110 and 6111, rolled out of the Baldwin Locomotive Works in the spring of 1942. The Pennsy liked what they saw and built a production fleet of 50 additional T1 locomotives between 1945 and 1946-25, from Baldwin and 25 from the railroad's own shops in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The T1 was dressed in a sleek, shark-nosed streamlined shell designed by legendary industrial designer Raymond Loewy, the same man who styled the GG1 electric locomotive and the Broadway Limited. The T1 was extraordinarily fast. There are persistent but unconfirmed claims that a T1 reached 140 miles per hour during a test run, which would have made it the fastest steam locomotive in the world. What is confirmed is that the T1 was a fearsome performer, capable of hauling heavy passenger trains at sustained speeds well over 100 miles per hour. But the T1 had a fatal flaw. Its poppet valve steam distribution system was prone to causing violent wheel slip at high speeds, making the locomotives unpredictable and dangerous. By the time the Pennsy worked out the mechanical issues, diesel locomotives had already won the economic argument. The entire fleet of T1s was scrapped by the late 1950s. Today, the Pennsylvania Railroad T1 Steam Locomotive Trust is building a brand new T1, number 5550, which is expected to be completed by 2030, a testament to the enduring fascination with this brilliant but flawed machine. Number 6. The Norfolk and Western Class A. While other railroads bought their locomotives from commercial builders, Norfolk and Western built its own, and the Class A was the masterpiece. The N&W Class A was a 2664 articulated locomotive designed and built at the railroad's Roanoke shops. It was a simple expansion locomotive, using high-pressure steam in all 4 cylinders, which gave it the ability to operate at much higher speeds than compound mallets, while still delivering enormous pulling power. In testing, the Class A produced 6,300 drawbar horsepower, matching the output of Union Pacific's much larger and heavier Big Boy. But the Class A achieved this with a locomotive that weighed only 573,000 pounds compared to the Big Boy's 772,250 pounds. Each Class A cost Norfolk and Western just $123,000 to build in-house at Roanoke, compared to the $230,000 that Chesapeake and Ohio paid for each of its larger Allegheny locomotives. The Class A was arguably the most efficient large steam locomotive ever built in America. It could do the work of much larger and more expensive machines while consuming less fuel and requiring less maintenance. When N&W tested its steam fleet against EMD diesels in 1952, the Class A was one of the locomotives that fought the diesels to a draw. Norfolk and Western's ability to design and build world-class locomotives in its own shops, without relying on commercial builders like Alco, Baldwin, or Lima, was itself a remarkable achievement. The Roanoke shops produced some of the finest steam locomotives in American history, and the Class A was their crowning glory in the freight category. Number 5. The Union Pacific Big Boy. Now we come to the most famous steam locomotive in American history, the Union Pacific Big Boy. The Big Boy was a 4884 articulated locomotive built by the American Locomotive Company in Schenectady, New York. Between 1941 and 1944, 25 were built, and they were designed for one specific purpose: to haul 3,600-ton freight trains over the 1.14% grade through the Wasatch Mountains between Ogden, Utah and Green River, Wyoming without helper engines. The statistics are staggering. A Big Boy and its tender weighed approximately 1.2 million pounds, heavier than a Boeing 747. At 132 feet long, it was longer than two city buses placed end to end. It produced a tractive effort of 135,375 pounds and generated 6,300 drawbar horsepower. It was designed for stability at 80 miles per hour, though in freight service it typically operated well below that speed. The Big Boy got its name when an unknown Alco worker in Schenectady chalked the words Big Boy on the smokebox of the first locomotive while it was still under construction. The name stuck. In practice, the Big Boys routinely pulled trains of up to 4,200 tons, and on flatter stretches of track they could handle loads of up to 6,000 tons. Each locomotive in the first class accumulated over 1 million miles before retirement. The last revenue run by any Big Boy occurred on July 21, 1959. 8 Big Boys survive in museums. In 2019, Union Pacific completed a multi-year restoration of number 4014, returning it to operational condition. It is now the largest and most powerful operating steam locomotive in the world. In 2026, number 4014 is making a coast-to-coast tour of the United States in celebration of America's 250th anniversary, including a stop at Steamtown National Historic Site in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where it will be displayed alongside its sister locomotive number 4012. Number 4. The Chesapeake and Ohio Allegheny. The Allegheny was the Big Boy's great rival, and by many measures, it was even more powerful. Built by the Lima Locomotive Works, the Chesapeake and Ohio H8 Allegheny was a 2666 articulated locomotive designed to haul massive coal trains through the Allegheny Mountains. 60 were built between 1941 and 1948 for two railroads, Chesapeake and Ohio, and the Virginian Railway. In dynamometer car testing, the Allegheny produced a maximum of 7,498 drawbar horsepower, nearly 1,200 more than either the Big Boy or the N&W Class A. It could continuously produce between 6,700 and 6,900 drawbar horsepower at speeds of 42 to 46 miles per hour. Perhaps most impressively, an Allegheny could accelerate 160 loaded cars weighing 14,100 tons from a dead stop to 19 miles per hour in just 1 mile and reach 29 miles per hour in only 11 minutes. The Allegheny weighed 751,830 pounds, without its tender making it one of the heaviest reciprocating steam locomotives ever built. With its tender, the total weight reached 1,183,540 pounds. Many railroad historians consider the Allegheny the pinnacle of superpower steam technology, the absolute maximum that could be achieved with reciprocating steam propulsion. Yet these magnificent locomotives were practically new when they were retired. The oldest was barely 10 years old before C&O began pulling them from service in 1952. They were simply too powerful for an era that had already decided to embrace diesel. Only 2 Alleghenies survive: C&O number 1601 at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, and Virginian Railway number 903 at the Virginia Museum of Transportation in Roanoke. Number 3. The Norfolk and Western Class J. If the Big Boy and the Allegheny were the kings of freight, the Norfolk and Western Class J was the undisputed queen of passenger service. The Class J was a 484 locomotive, the northern type, designed and built entirely at N&W's Roanoke shops between 1941 and 1950. Only 14 were built, yet this tiny fleet handled approximately 80% of Norfolk and Western's entire passenger traffic. That astonishing efficiency was achieved because the Class J's designers addressed one of steam power's greatest weaknesses: excessive downtime for maintenance and repairs. The Class J produced 5,100 horsepower and generated a tractive effort of 80,000 pounds, the highest of any 484 locomotive in the United States. What made these numbers even more impressive was that the Class J achieved them with 70-inch driving wheels, unusually small for a locomotive of this type. For comparison, Southern Pacific's famous GS4 Daylight used 80-inch drivers. To overcome the limitations of smaller wheels, N&W engineers made the wheelbase extremely rigid, used lightweight rods, and executed the counterbalancing so precisely that the locomotive could theoretically reach 140 miles per hour without causing rail damage. When N&W loaned Class J No. 610 to the Pennsylvania Railroad for testing in late 1944, it hauled a 1,015-ton passenger train with 11 to 15 cars at speeds exceeding 110 miles per hour. The Pennsylvania Railroad's own inspector stated that the Class J rode better than any of their own steam locomotives except for the massive S1 Duplex. Class J No. 611 survives today at the Virginia Museum of Transportation in Roanoke and has been operated in excursion service in recent years. It is widely regarded as one of the finest steam locomotives ever built. Number 2. The Milwaukee Road Class A. Atlantic. The Milwaukee Road Class A was one of the fastest steam locomotives ever built in America, a streamlined speed machine that proved steam power could compete with the future. Built between 1935 and 1937 by the American Locomotive Company, the Class A was a 442 Atlantic-type locomotive designed specifically for high-speed passenger service on the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad. Only 4 were ever built, but these locomotives became legends almost immediately because of what they could do. The Class A was created for the Milwaukee Road's famous Hiawatha passenger trains, which competed directly against the fastest trains in the country. To achieve the incredible speeds demanded by the railroad, engineers designed the locomotive around enormous 84-inch driving wheels, among the largest ever fitted to an American steam locomotive. The streamlined design reduced air resistance, while lightweight train sets allowed the engines to maintain astonishing average speeds over long distances. And the numbers were absolutely insane for the 1930s. During test runs, Milwaukee Road Class A locomotives reportedly exceeded 120 miles per hour, making them among the fastest steam locomotives in American history. On regular service runs, they routinely averaged over 100 miles per hour while hauling passenger trains across the Midwest. At a time when most freight trains crawled along at 30 miles per hour, the Hiawathas were flying across Wisconsin at aviation-like speeds. The Class A locomotives produced approximately 3,200 horsepower and were considered remarkably smooth at high speed. Their performance was so impressive that railroad crews often described them as feeling more like electric locomotives than steam engines. The streamlined Hiawatha trains they hauled became symbols of American industrial modernism during the late 1930s. But despite their incredible speed, the Class A locomotives arrived just before the diesel revolution transformed American railroads forever. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, even these advanced speed machines were becoming obsolete. 3 of the 4 locomotives were scrapped, but one survives today, Milwaukee Road No. 3, preserved at the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Milwaukee Road Class A proved that steam locomotives were still evolving at an astonishing pace right before the end. If diesel power had arrived even 10 years later, these streamlined Atlantics might have become the kings of American passenger railroading. Number 1. The GEC 48W-8. At number 1, we have the locomotive that helped redefine American freight railroading during the 1980s, the GEC 48W, better known as the Dash 8. By the mid-1980s, railroads across America needed locomotives that were more powerful, more fuel efficient, and capable of hauling longer freight trains across thousands of miles. General Electric answered with a machine that looked aggressive, sounded brutal, and completely changed the diesel locomotive industry. Introduced in 1987, the GE C40-8W was one of the first locomotives to feature the now famous wide safety cab design. Unlike older locomotives with cramped, narrow noses, the Dash 8 gave crews improved crash protection, better visibility, and far more comfort during long-distance operations. At the time, the design looked futuristic, and within a few years, nearly every major freight railroad in America adopted similar wide cab locomotives. But the Dash 8 was not just about appearance. It produced a massive 4,000 horsepower from GE's powerful 7 FDL diesel engine and was built specifically for heavy freight service. Railroads such as CSX, Norfolk Southern, and Union Pacific quickly began using them to haul coal, grain, containers, and mile-long freight trains across the country. The Dash 8 also helped General Electric challenge EMD's dominance of the locomotive market. By the 1990s, GE locomotives were becoming the new standard for American freight railroading. The GE Dash 8 earns the #1 spot because it marked the beginning of the modern high-horsepower locomotive era, a machine that transformed freight railroading forever. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments which American locomotive you think was the most powerful for its era. And if you get the chance to see Big Boy number 4014 on its 2026 Coast to Coast tour, do not miss it. Some things you simply have to see to believe. Until next time, keep the fire burning and the steam rising.